Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lorelei Shamayo. This is the MeWe Metaphysics and Wellness Fairs for energizing body, mind, heart, and soul. We have events throughout the Northwest and online, and we interview our practitioners and vendors so you get a chance to know who we are before you meet us at an event. I'm here today interviewing Hannah York. Hannah, it's great to be with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So what is it that you do? What do you offer at our events?
So I'll be offering free talks and group healings on different topics for each event. Will have a different theme for the group healing with what's in keeping for the collective around us. So you'll just have to tune into the event page and see what those are going to be specifically. But you'll be able to join us for at least one free group energy healing for each event that I'm part of, as well as having a special price for anyone that's showing up to see me or the other vendors for this wonderful event. You'll actually get 33% off a 30-minute session with me.
That's great.
For anything that you want to work on.
Yeah, that's great. And so what is your modality? What do you do with people?
So my primary focus is inner child healing. And I do that by blending, not only different books I've read on energy healing, but also Theta healing, Reiki, and emotion code. And so for me and my clients get the deepest healing with doing that belief work, really going back to that origin story and giving it an actual voice and speaking it out, because so often as a child, you weren't able to express those emotions and you internalized them. So it's so powerful giving it voice in a supportive environment by forming this relationship with me as a practitioner. You get to have that safety to explore those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions. And inner child healing it's with your money story, your work story, your relationships. It affects every avenue of your life.
Yeah. How do you choose what modalities you use when you're with someone?
It's not really actually a choice of which modality. It's I tune into the energy of creation. I connect to your energy. And then I just work with your higher self and basically with that creation energy to accomplish the goal that you have set out. And then it's just whatever comes up first that needs to be cleared.
What do people typically come to you for? Like, are there particular things that they know that you're the person to see?
Yeah, so a lot of my friends have dubbed me, my zone of genius is physical pain and discomfort. And for a while, I actually resisted that because I didn't know how to write content because I was afraid of the FDA.
Oh, yeah.
on what I could and couldn't say. But so it's really that physical pain and not love relationships, but work relationships and boundaries more so, where you haven't learned how it feels to actually have that support, connecting with people in a more general way, going back to childhood and even your early 20s, so all those formative years, your first experiences of being an adult even really factor into that physical pain.
Is it where all those emotional wounds and things we haven't processed are stored in our bodies, and that's where all the pain and the aching comes from later?
Yeah. So for me, I have a lot of lower back pain that was coming from not being supported. And so the trick here is it might not all be from this life. So yes, there's inner child healing, but when we go back to the origin point, we might actually be going back and talking to one of your ancestors or to a past life. Or if you don't believe in past lives, that's fine. You picked it up from the collective energy. And the important thing here is I work with you and your belief system. What you say, what you remember, what's coming up for you, no matter how far-fetched it sounds, it's in your energy. And we need to clear it. So there's no judgment, there's no criticism, there's no anything. I had a client that thought the moon was the devil. And honestly, it doesn't matter where that came from, but it was in her energy and it was very strong belief. And because I didn't judge it, It's the most relief she's gotten from a session from anyone.
Yeah. You know, we were talking a little earlier, there was a cat that was on your chair. So you have 2 cats and 2 dogs with you, right?
Yes. So there's 2 kitties, and the gray kitty that you saw earlier, I call her, well, they're both healing kitties. But it's funny, I also work on pets, and I love to communicate with my pets. And I was doing a session on trying to call more clients, and Molly's sitting on my chest, and she's like, I want clients. Because she had one experience where I specifically acknowledged her during a session. My client was having a lot of stomach cramps, and she came over, laid directly on me, started purring. I call it the purr-spittle. And I asked my client if she could feel the energy that my cat was sending to her. And she said that she actually felt an immediate sense of relief. So she says she can be paid in wet food or, but I also have my other kitty, she likes to come join, sit under the table or on my lap during sessions. The energy when I'm about to do a session. And they'll come in for like a particularly emotional part of it to help lend their support and then leave or stay the whole time. And then there's also the 2 dogs that always love to be part of it.
How do the dogs participate? What do they typically do?
One of them is just my snuggle bunny. He's 80 pounds and he's a lap dog. So he'll make a frequent appearance. And they just more lend that silent support, lend their strength. They aren't active participants in the healing, but they like to kind of show up, just like kind of show their cute little face, like lighten the mood and break up the tension.
How did you get started doing this work?
So it's funny because my degree is actually in geophysical engineering. And if you would have met me 10 years ago, there's no way I would even think about attending one of these as a participant, let alone as a practitioner.
By the way, there are lots of other people in our community where this is true. I used to be a molecular biologist. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. But I got sick. I was always sick. I would go to the doctor. I would get a CAT scan. I'd get another prescription. And it was just endless. And I remember at one point, I got a lot of headaches when I was younger. And so I was put on medication for the headaches. And I was put on medication because to mitigate the side effects of that medication. And it was just this cycle until really my early to mid 20s. And it was my boyfriend at the time, husband now, but he actually asked me, he's like, do you even still need that medication? And I was like, maybe not. So I talked to the doctor and just, because I was on it for so long, wanted to wean off of it and just see what my new baseline was. So that was kind of the start of questioning what I've been doing, but it was still another several years before doing anything. And I actually quit my job, went to a job because I was working crazy hours, driving, always on call. It was honestly a miracle that I never wrecked the vehicles, which is the hours that I was working. And so I thought, surely once I got to this 9-to-5 job and working in an office, I'd get better. I was sleeping. My health should improve, right? But I just kept getting worse. My system was completely fried. And then I finally had a friend suggest alternative medicine. And then I started with NAET, Nambudrapad's allergy elimination technique. And what's funny is, in order for us to even get to that point, I had gone to a physical therapist for my jaw because I would actually have a lot of bone loss in my jaw. And at one point, my jaw popped and I could barely, I couldn't even open it wide enough to eat a cracker. And so we drove 4 hours to go see a specialist, had a CT scan done of my jaw, found out that I'm missing a jaw joint. And he recommended that I go see a physical therapist. I looked at my husband and I'm like, what on earth is a physical therapist going to be able to do for my jaw? That's the point that I used to be at, ladies and gentlemen. Because in my head, physical therapy is for your knee or your shoulder. What on earth are they going to do for your jaw? Anyway, it was amazing, actually. Super helpful. Super glad I did it. So that was the first step. And so when my friend suggested this NAET, my husband was like, well, it's only worth at least trying, if you'll start cooking with garlic again, because I had this whole list of foods that I shouldn't eat. It's like, well, what do we have to lose, right? Let's see. And it got so bad that I was labeling food in the house as mine.
So try the NAT, because you said there were all these foods around the house that were labeled.
Oh, labeled with my name, not because my husband couldn't eat them, but because he did not want to eat them.
Uh-huh.
Because they're so bland. And I remember the first day that I took I got my allergy test results. And the only thing I could eat that we had in the house was rice milk and a piece of bread. So I'm sitting on the couch, just like basically crying to myself, like I'm eating my little bread and milk. I'm like, what has my life turned into? Anyway, so discovered NAT, went to a couple of different practitioners, and one of them eventually introduced me to the emotion code. And then I became certified in the emotion code, and I consider the emotion code the training wheels for my intuition. So it was very clear cut. It showed you how to muscle test. The answers are yes or no. It's on this chart. It was what I needed to be introduced to the energy world in a way that made sense to that logical brain.
Yep.
And from there, I went to Reiki. I'm a Reiki master, so I teach Reiki classes. But I always really wanted to learn more about the beliefs. And then when I finally found Theta healing, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what really ties it all together, brings it together for me. And so I actually have taken 7 Theta healing certification classes so far. And that's just a start, because there's so many new areas to dive into. Not that you need to learn more, but just that you get that extra support and healing around. So I just can't wait to keep taking more classes and continuing the journey.
So just a little bit of what unfolded with the food, like how did that all shift for you? Was it emotions underlying it or what?
Yeah, so with NAET, that modality is actually is a frequency based. So what they do is shift the frequency. So they have a little vial that matches the frequency of what the food is. And so they get your body used to that frequency. But then the practitioner that I was going to at the end kept finding emotions that were underlying, because she had muscle test and see was best. And I was not happy that emotions kept coming out. So I'm like, no, I want the NAET. And she's like, well, this is what we need to have the most effect. And I'm like, all right. And then I read the book, and then I got certified. I'm like, okay, I believe you now. So, and it cracks me up when people in my life tell me that they're skeptical or don't believe. I'm like, yeah, no, I've been there. Like, you find it when you need it. And my stories, what would you say, like 90%, if not more, of other healers you've met have a very similar story or journey.
There we have all have our own process of opening.
Yep.
Well, if people want to find out more about you, connect with you on the web, where do they go?
Holistichealingbyhannah.com.
Okay, great. Been lovely chatting with you. I'm excited to learn more about your work, have more people experience your work.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be part of the event, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And for all of you listening and watching, you can find out more about our events at MeWeFairs.com. That's MEWEFAIRS.com. See you soon.